Hello everyone, myself Jayashree Patil, physics teacher from Ferguson College. In the earlier session of oscillations, we discussed the two spatial cases of displacement, assuming that the particle either starting its motion from mean or from extreme position. After that, in detail about the projection of UCM on any reference diameter is acting as SHM. So using the same analogy of UCM and SHM, let us begin today's session with phase of SHM. So let us focus our attention on presentation. So as in the diagram, it is observed that whenever a spring mass oscillator is set into oscillation, then it undergoes a displacement in a vertical plane. So initially at time t is equal to say 0, the displacement of the oscillator is equal to 0. So that's why y is equal to 0, and this is that required position of the oscillator. Now if the ball which is fixed at the bottom of the spring is pushed up, then what happens is the spring gets compressed like this way. Because of this, the ball undergoes maximum displacement, which is equal to amplitude. So over here, when the ball is reaching to that particular position, which is the uppermost extreme position, then displacement y is maximum, which is equal to amplitude. And if from this position the oscillator is released, then it starts performing up and down oscillations in vertical plane. So the moment it is released from this point, it once again comes back to the equilibrium position, and again due to inertial properties it goes to the lowermost extreme position. So in that case, the spring gets expanded in this way. Again, due to the restoring force, the ball again reaches to the equilibrium position over here. So likewise, here we can see the oscillator has completed one oscillation right from the beginning. So to understand at any given instant of time where is the ball or where is the oscillator, we have to understand the phase of SHM. So the general expression for the displacement which we have learned in the earlier sessions is x is equal to plus minus a sine of omega t plus phi, where a is standing for the amplitude. And over here the bracketed term in this expression is representing a phase of SHM. So this is nothing but the angle. So this angle decides the position of a particle performing linear SHM at a given instant of time. Out of this omega t plus phi, phi is standing for the starting phase or epoch of SHM or phase constant, and this we have already discussed that if the particle is starting its motion from mean position, then this phase constant phi is taken as either 0 or it is taken as pi, like this way, pi radians. And if it is assumed that the particle is starting its motion from extreme position, then this phase constant is either taken as pi by 2 or 3 pi by 2. So as these values of phi are constants, that's why it is called as the phase constant. So over here the varying quantity is only omega t. That's why the omega t plus phi collectively explains the phase of SHM. The initial state of vibrating particle performing SHM at t is equal to 0 is called phase constant or epoch of SHM. Let us understand in detail now what is this phase of SHM? The phase of SHM is representing the state of oscillation. The state of oscillation indicates the displacement, that is either x or y, which is always measured from its mean position. Not only displacement, but the state is also indicating the direction of its motion, whether it is moving from mean towards extreme or extreme towards mean, or whether it is moving towards left extremity or right extremity, etc. So, to understand the state of oscillation, we need to know the phase of SHM. Now, to know this state of oscillation in SHM, we have to focus on the displacement, direction of velocity, and oscillation number at that given instant of time. So let us discuss these three situations one by one. Knowing only displacement for a particle is not enough, because at a given position there are two possible directions of the velocity, because velocity is equal to 0 only at the extreme position and it is maximum at the mean position. So if the particle is, say, at mean position, then velocity may be directed towards left extreme or towards right extreme. So that is the situation. And apart from this, the oscillation is repeated after a particular interval of time. So only displacement information is not sufficient enough. If we focus on the velocity, so if velocity is known, then that is also not enough, because there are two different positions for the same velocity except at mean position. Even the displacement and velocity is not enough, but still the repetitions of oscillations are going on after a particular interval of time. That's why we need a particular quantity which is continuously varying with time. And as per the analogy of UCM with SHM, if we take the projections of the quantities in linear SHM as displacement, velocity and acceleration on any diameter, then the problem is getting solved to understand what is phase of SHM. So as per the analogy, the angular displacement theta in UCM, which is used as a phase of SHM, which is equal to omega t plus phi. So why this omega t plus phi is used for representing phase of SHM? Because this quantity theta, that is omega t plus phi, varies continuously with time, and that's why the phase of SHM is represented by this term. We'll now understand how the phase of SHM explains about the state of oscillation as well as the direction of motion of a particle. So again we'll take a reference of the UCM and the SHM. So consider a particle P performing uniform circular motion along the circumference of a circle which is observed on a screen. Let the circle be PQRS, which is called a reference circle. Let the particle P performing motion in the anticlockwise direction represented by the respective arrows. Then let O be the center of the circular path. Then let RP be the vertical diameter and SQ be the horizontal diameter. So here SQ diameter is considered as the reference diameter. So the pink ball-like thing or pink particle is representing a particle performing UCM or a body performing UCM. And if the projections from various positions of this body P are taken along the reference diameter SQ, then that is say represented by the say blue ball, which is indicating the projection of UCM on a reference diameter as SQ. So let the projection of P lies at particle M, which is performing SHM, where we are assuming that O is standing for the equilibrium position of the particle. So at time t is equal to 0, the particle is at position P. So it will start the UCM from this position P. So the angular displacement theta in this case is equal to 0. If we take the projection of this particle P on a reference diameter SQ, then we are getting the foot of the perpendicular lying at position M. So M is at O position. So this is very clear that the position is equilibrium or a mean position. So initially the particle M, which will perform SHM, that is at mean or equilibrium position. After time t, the particle P starts moving in anticlockwise direction. So as we have discussed over here, if particle M is performing SHM simultaneously, then O, which is the origin or which is the center of circular path, will act as a equilibrium or mean position, and S and Q respectively will act as the left extreme and right extreme positions. So let us begin now how these different values of theta can be calculated, which represents the phase of SHM. So in time t, the particle reaches to a position say P prime. So the angle is theta, which is the angular displacement of the particle at position P prime. It is obviously greater than 0. Further, if we draw the projection of P prime on SQ, then we are getting a new position of the particle M, that is M prime. So it's very clear that as the particle P performs UCM along the circumference in anticlockwise direction, the particle M initially is at equilibrium and it has started its motion towards the right extreme position Q. So further, if particle P reaches to Q, then the projection of Q lies there itself. So this is the position of particle M. That means it has reached to the positive extreme or right extreme position. That means it has completed 1/4 oscillation. So over here, the theta value is 90 degrees or pi by 2 radian. So the phase at this position is pi by 2 radian. Further, if the particle reaches to R position, which is at the top of the circle, then the projection from R on the reference diameter is again at the mean position, that is again at this point, right? So particle has came back to its equilibrium position once again after performing half oscillation. So over here, if the phase is calculated, then phase is equal to pi radians or 180 degrees. Further, if the particle reaches to position S, that is the left extreme position, then projection of S is at the same position, S itself. So obviously the particle now has reached, the particle M has reached to the left extreme position from its equilibrium position. So it is now at the negative extremity or left extreme position, where the phase is equal to 3 pi by 2 radian or 270 degrees. Then again, if the particle continues from S to P, then once again the particle M, which is the foot of the projection of particle M, it again comes back to its mean position, saying that the one oscillation of the particle M has completed as the particle P has completed one revolution. So like this way, if the projections of particle P are taken on, say, reference diameter SQ, then those projections will perform SHM about point O as a mean position and SQ as its extreme positions. So let us conclude now. When the particle is at position P, which is performing UCM, then at time t is equal to 0, theta is 0, and the projection of P on SQ is lying at M. So we can see the phase of M can be represented as theta is equal to 0, which indicates that the particle is at mean position and it will now start its journey towards the positive extreme, that is towards the right extreme position, say Q. After that, when the particle reaches to, say, Q position, then M also will reach to Q position. So the state of particle M performing SHM has phase of theta is equal to pi by 2 radians. So theta is equal to pi by 2 radians indicates that the particle has to be at the positive extremity, and now it will start its journey back towards the mean position. So same thing over here, when the particle performing UCM reaches to R, theta is equal to pi radians. That means the phase of SHM for M is equal to pi radians, which indicates that the particle is now at mean position and it has covered half of the oscillation, and now it will start its journey towards negative extreme or left extreme, say position over here S. After that, when the particle performing UCM reaches to S position, then the particle M performing SHM will reach to negative extremity, indicating the phase equal to 3 pi by 2 radians, which clearly indicates that theta is equal to 270 or 3 pi by 2 radian. That means the particle M is at negative extremity and now it will start its journey again towards the mean position. So when the particle P comes back to its original position after completing one revolution, M will also come back to its original, that is the mean position. That means again theta is equal to 360 degrees or equivalent to 0 degrees. So like this way, the state of oscillation, that is a position of a particle in magnitude and direction, can be represented in detail by this angle theta, which is omega t plus phi, which is called as phase of SHM. Up till this we have discussed the SHM of a particle, single SHM of a particle. But if a particle is subjected to two SHMs simultaneously such that both the SHMs are taking place along the same line or a path, and the periodic time for both the SHMs is exactly same, then the combination of two SHMs, whether will be a SHM itself or not, what will be its resultant amplitude, what will be the resultant phase angle. These things we are now going to discuss under the topic composition of two SHMs, under the condition that the two SHMs must be of same periodic time and taking place along the same path. The first SHM of a particle will take place along the path, say CD, with amplitude of A1. Let the corresponding displacement be x1 and the starting phase or epoch for that SHM be equal to phi 1. So as per the diagram here, O is representing the mean or equilibrium position of a particle. CD represents the path length for the first SHM. So particle is subjected to first SHM where the path length is CD, amplitude is A1 and the corresponding displacement is x1, as can be observed on screen. On similar lines, the same particle is subjected to second SHM of path AB with amplitude A2, displacement x2 and the epoch of SHM as phi 2. So AB comparatively is a longer path length as compared to CD. So the displacement of the particle obviously is more enough as compared to x1. Over here, x2 and a2 can be observed on the screen, indicating amplitude and displacement. So if the particle is subjected to two SHMs at a time or simultaneously, then the resultant displacement at a given instant of time will be a vector sum of the individual displacements x1 and x2. The general expression for the displacement is x is equal to a sine omega t plus phi. So if the same is applied for two displacements, then we have the two equations. X1 is equal to a1 sine omega t plus phi 1 and second x2 is equal to a2 sine omega t plus phi 2. Over here, the omega is taken constant because the period we have assumed for both the SHM to be constant or same. So likewise over here, if we assume that the particle is starting its motion, say from mean position O, then it will start its journey, say towards the positive extreme position D for the first SHM. So the displacement of the particle is say denoted by x1. The moment particle reaches to D, it covers the maximum displacement which is equal to amplitude. Actually, it has to come back to its equilibrium position under the action of restoring force F1. But as the particle is subjected to one more SHM, that's why it continues its journey towards the positive extreme position for second SHM. That's why it continues to move from D to B. The moment it reaches to B position, x2, that is the displacement in case of second SHM, becomes maximum, which is equal to A2. So at this position B, the total force acting on the particle is F1 plus F2, which is the vector sum of the two forces. So under the action of this resultant force, the particle started journey back towards its mean position and the motion continues. So after reaching to mean position, now it will move towards C. Same thing is happening. Again, instead of coming back to O, the particle again moves to A and then it comes back to O. Like this way, the oscillations are performed by a single particle. So let us understand now how is the resultant displacement x at any given instant of time. So x can be determined as x1 plus x2, which is a1 sine omega t plus phi 1 plus a2 sine omega t plus phi 2. So using the trigonometric identity sine of a plus b, for each bracket we have sine a cos b plus cos a sine b. So we here for both the brackets omega t is equal to a itself, and for the first bracket b is equal to phi 1 and for the second bracket b is equal to phi 2. So this trigonometric identity will help us to split up the first and second bracket. So doing so, we have x is equal to a1 as it is sine of first bracket is splitted as sine of omega t cos phi 1 plus a1 as it is cos omega t sine phi 1. Similarly, second bracket a2 as it is sine of omega t cos phi 2 and the second one a2 as it is cos of omega t sine phi 2. So over here omega t is only the variable because as the time advances the position of the particle keeps on is going on changing. That's why omega t is a variable, but rest of the values are constants. That is a1, a2, the initial phase angles phi 1, phi 2, these are the constants. So if we just combine the constant terms together, keeping omega 2 aside, then we can introduce with a new constant c, as an example r and delta. So combining the terms of a1, a2, phi 1, phi 2 together and separating out omega t terms, we have x is equal to in a bracket a1 cos phi 1 plus A2 cos phi 2. So out of first and third term, first and the third term, sin omega t is taken common and rest of the things are taken in one bracket. Similarly, if we take cos omega t common from second and fourth term, then by taking cos omega t common, we get another bracket in terms of sine, that is a1 sin phi 1 plus a2 sin phi 2. So let us assign some constants r and delta to these brackets. So these assigned terms are r cos delta is equal to a1 cos phi 1 plus a2 cos phi 2. So purposely the cos delta is used because the rest of the equation is in terms of cos. On similar lines, the another equation is in terms of sine. That's why the constant assigned is sine, that is r sin delta as the respective term. Now substituting these terms back in the previous equation, we have sin omega t as it is and the bracket is substituted as r cos delta. Similarly, cos omega t is kept as it is and the next term is introduced as r sin delta. So over here, if r is taken common, then we have sin omega t cos delta, cos omega t sin delta. So if the same trigonometric identity is used in the opposite manner, then we can have a final expression for the resultant displacement x, which is r into sine of omega t plus delta. So this represents the equation of the SHM of same angular frequency omega as that of the individual SHM, and the resultant amplitude is r, and over here the resultant initial phase angle is delta. So like this way it is proved that even though the particle is subjected to two linear SHMs of same period and taking place along same path, the resultant motion is also SHM. In this session of oscillations, we studied the phase of SHM, which is represented by omega t plus phi, then how the phase can be explained for various positions of the particle performing linear SHM. After that, we discussed the composition of two linear SHMs of same periodic time and taking place along same path. Thank you.